Hey everyone, this is a little bit more of an expedient upload than my last few, which I think is a good sign. I'm going to preface this entire video by saying I have a lot of clarifications to make, a lot of things to talk about, and this does mark me officially catching up with my footage. So this is all the workouts I've done in up until now, and so moving ahead is everything's going to be fresh and I won't have to be backtracking, which should hopefully put me back on a more consistent and sustainable schedule. So I want to start off by thanking everybody for the incredible surge of support that I felt from that last video. I was really nervous to make it. I was really nervous to talk about the decision, mostly because I was so disappointed in myself for setting a goal and not being able to follow through with it. But I also want to clarify and put everyone else's minds at ease that this isn't some woe is me kind of situation where I really feel like I want a whole lot of sympathy from people, or that I don't feel confident in moving forward. I've gone through a few things recently that were kind of building up to this situation that forced a lot of critical reflection, a lot of thinking, and I do have a very big tendency to put a lot of criticism on myself and to beat myself up for my decisions. I think a lot of people view that as me being overly harsh on myself, but I think that I would counter that that's just the kind of person that I am, and while I do have some emotional reactions to those things, it is ultimately just all in the pursuit of me trying to be better. And I guess I come from the perspective that sometimes the decisions you make that are not the best decisions need to sting a little bit, or you don't learn from them. And so sometimes, yeah, I need to settle in and suffer and be a little bit blamey, even if it's not as super realistic. That's just something I've noticed for myself. If I want to fix a situation, that is part of the learning process for me. And I do want to say a special thanks to some of the people who reached out to me to check on me, make sure I was doing okay. I really do appreciate that. Lane Norton, who I was working with on a lot of my nutrition for this training cycle, he sent me an email and reached out to check on me after that. And my buddy Garrett Blevins reached out, and it was really awesome to see some of those specific people. And then there were countless commenters who really were just in my corner and reminded me of some of the good that can happen in people. I think that is one of the benefits of trying to live your life with humility. It's that when you do fail to reach a goal, or when you do stumble, it usually leaves you in a better position to do so with grace, and not to really have as large of an outcry. Kind of the bigger you let your ego get, the harder you fall. And so sometimes it's nice to be reminded the importance and the benefit of trying to do what you do with humility, and I think that's a big focus of my life, and it really seems to be helping with coping with some of these kind of situations. So thank you all for that and that reminder. I have a list of reasons why things kind of went downhill, and most of them have to do with choices I made, but I'm going to do my best to limit anything that would resemble an excuse that doesn't matter, or that would have happened anyway, and I want to focus my attention onto the things that I could change and onto the takeaways that I had. There's going to be life stuff that happens, my moving situation, my living situation, financial issues, just life happenings of things that come up and you have to deal with on the fly, and a lot of the time you can't really change those sorts of decisions. You can look back and say, well, maybe it would have been nice if that didn't happen, but we have so little control over so many aspects. All we can do is focus on the things we could have changed. And so for me, that comes down primarily to programming, approach, preparation, things like that. My nutrition, like I said, I was working with Lane on a lot of the nutrition stuff that was happening, and we started off really strong, and he was doing his job absolutely as a coach with giving me the steps I needed to make it a successful process, and I failed to hold my end up. There were some times when I was being less consistent, and in the last few weeks it really started to go kind of downhill, just keeping my schedule up and my priorities shifting, and that needs to be something that I keep at the center of my focus. As far as programming, I realized looking back on my training, that my last training block, I kind of got caught up in the hype a little bit of being excited and hitting PRs and pushing my assumed maxes up. And so for the first, I have this 20-week training block that I did. The first 6 or 7 weeks were really, really incredible. And I should have hit a reset point there. I should have given myself something to work from and backed off a little bit to make it more sustainable. And even when I did, I tried to start a volume block. And I had a couple of life interruptions, a couple of things that kind of popped up and messed me up in being able to carry that out. But my approach in the volume block was also a little bit under-volumed. I wasn't taking into account where I was or where I needed to be when it came to total lifting volume, total things like that. And I was focusing so much on the minutia, on the small aspects of my training, that I was forgetting some of the big fundamental principles and building the base. I think I was relying way too much on my training equipment. Normally I take a period of time where I train without my belt, without my knee sleeves, and focus on building some more of a base. And it takes a shot to the ego to do that. It takes a little bit of that humility, like I was talking about, to say, okay, my numbers are going to drop down a little bit. I'm going to build some better motor patterns. I'm going to fix some problems. But I really just kind of hit the ground running after that last meet a little too much. And it's important to recognize when it's appropriate to stop and take a step back before it plateaus out and you get stuck. Because ultimately I got to the end of this training block and was trying to intensify my training and bring in a peak, and I look back and see what I could draw on in terms of my working volume and my, what changes I'd made and what things I had improved on, and I hadn't made enough base building progress to transmute or convert into the progress that I need to have. And so I'm kind of stripping away a lot of the things that I could potentially hide behind and going back a little bit more to basics and resetting some patterns right now with the training, which is what I really should have done about 16 weeks ago. And so I think it's less about mistakes that I made getting closer to the meet, and it was more about mistakes I made further out when you can't cram for this kind of a thing. You can't cram. You have to put in the work beforehand and then see it realized later, and I kind of got that backwards a little bit. So that's on me, but I am very motivated to fix that. If anything, the times after disappointing situations for me are usually the times that are the richest in terms of motivation and feeling driven, because I have something tangible that I can work on to fix, and that's what draws me to this sport, honestly. If you just won every single time, if you just had an easy route, and everything worked out the first time that you wanted to do it, you lose your motivation pretty fast. You become kind of complacent and just settle into what could potentially become mediocrity. So what I did this last week, I'll go into a little bit of talking, seeing that I'm out of footage now, but dropping the belt, dropping the sleeves, dropping the assistive things, focusing on solid positioning and giving myself a base of volume to work through. I was using where the most amount of lifts I think I was hitting in a session for most of these last few weeks and months on the training sessions. I think I was getting around 15 to 12 to 18 total lifts for my big 3 per session, and that's just not enough. So I'm starting off with a place of around 30 working reps per session now, and starting with the volume pretty high, and I've dropped my intensities and my training maxes down kind of to adjust for the lack of belt, lack of sleeves, lack of assistance, and to clean up my techniques and to work on building some volume and putting in kind of a grindy, boring phase to reset some things and give myself a base of work to draw from. So I'll give more details and ideas about the training as I'm moving forward, now that I'll have some more frequent uploads, now that I'm back on track. But this is kind of just to get out there some of the things that I feel like I could have done better, that I am planning on doing better in the future, and just wanting to thank you guys for the continued support. To everyone who reached out, it really does mean a lot to me, and it's pretty awesome to have such a supportive group of people that some of them you know, some of them you don't, but it really does mean a lot to me that you guys are there. So thank you all, and I will have another video up soon when I get some more training footage. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.